Welcome back to Remnant 2, everyone. With the many different build types you can create in this game, it can be hard to find your preferred playstyle. Mine just so happens to be elemental or overtime damage, depleting your enemy's health simply by applying as many statuses as possible. A really easy way to do this is with the energized neck coil. All status effects deal 25% more damage, and applying them creates a small explosion. Absolutely amazing for ad clear and pretty darn strong on bosses as well. Today, I give you the proper alchemist build and how you can make it yourself. As for the prime class, you want medic. This is mainly for the 25% bump to all damage, which will affect our statuses. All the other perks from this class are great, as well as being able to get better healing and getting relics back on occasion. We won't exploit any of them majorly for this build, so all in all, each is just nice to have. I will mention, however, that getting our relics back can be huge in boss fights, so do try to take a relic before taking damage as much as possible. As for the skill, you want Healing Shield. This is one of my favorite skills as it grants you 100% shield for 10 seconds. During this time, you gain a small amount of healing. The shield itself is going to prevent you from dying to almost any hit, and also applies to allies as well. Use this when you feel you're about to get hit, and you should still come out on top. As for the subclass, you want Alchemist. On a build called Alchemist, you sort of need that class for it, and this one also grants a 25% bump to all damage, allowing your statuses to be as strong as they can be. You're also going to gain a random perk from taking a relic, which can play an integral role in battle. The big item here, however, is the skill. Vile Frenzy Dust will increase fire rate, reload speed, and melee speed for 20%, with a bump of 15% for movement speed. At most, this will last 25 seconds, but you can shoot your guns much faster, allowing us to speed up our roll in combat and always get statuses applied easily. Be aware that this skill is a pool you need to stand in and can be spread to teammates as well if you're a co-op oriented player. As for the armor, we want to look as proper and royal as possible, sort of a prince in search of knowledge. Lodestone crown with the Red Widow chest, Red Widow boots, and Red Widow gloves. Being some lost gear from an ancient time, you feel majestic and still have a medium dodge roll to better avoid attacks. When it comes to the relic, you want the Constrained Heart. I don't use this guy often, but when paired with Medic, it can be a great source of defense and health. On use, it regens a small amount of health for 5 seconds. Plus, you gain 2 stacks of Bulwark. Pair this up with Alchemist, and any relic usage gives you 13% reduced damage, a random perk or buff, and 20 healing over 5 seconds. You can use this early before an attack to survive harder hits, or play it normal and heal up from damage taken. Both methods work and let you get more creative with how you use your relics. Plus, as you are using Medic, you could get a lot of these back. Don't be stingy and eat them whenever you deem it necessary. You want elemental damage, healing effectiveness, and mod damage. We'll want to boost elemental damage as much as possible, and the small increase to mod damage increases one of our best sources. As for the healing effectiveness, I like it here, as otherwise the Constrained Heart isn't that good of a heal. When it comes to our main weapon, I selected the Bone Saw. This guy will fire a lot of bullets quickly, making it a great pairing with our Frenzy skill. Also being an easy way to apply statuses as it crits easily and won't need to be reloaded hardly ever. Better than a rifle as your accuracy can be way off and still its effectiveness in combat will stay pretty much the same. At least for the elemental damage, that is. Then go ahead and equip Corrosive Rounds, as this is some more crit chance with one of the easiest ways to apply corrosion. Causing enemies to take 10% more damage will help quite a bit. Then also equip Twisting Wounds so the weapon applies bleeding and gains a bonus to bleeding enemies. Overall, this gun will get a 30% increase in damage, applying 2 statuses for us, and proc fast AoE explosions paired with the amulet. Just this alone will clear out dungeons with ease. As for your melee, you want the Krell Axe. This is the only melee that applies lightning or shock and can do so at any range, which lets you quickly throw it out and then your damage increases, as well as getting a small shock every few seconds. Personally, a very fun item to use that's hard to switch out. Equip Steadfast, so when you're throwing your axe, you take 20% less damage and can't be staggered. Saves you here and there, especially in fights with more aggressive enemies. As for the sidearm, you want the MP60 or SMG. With our main weapon being a bullet spray, it's a good choice to keep the other in line as well. I like guns that shoot out more bullets for status builds as they have more chances to proc the element. This one isn't set in stone, but felt pretty great for dealing with those orbs and things that you need to target down in boss fights. Now, the mod on this guy can be anything that applies burning. So Hotshot works pretty well, Witchfire is my personal favorite, or you can stick to the good old reliable Firestorm. Now, the problem with Hotshot is that the burning's only applied if you shoot the gun. Witchfire is great as it gets 2 charges and can be fired more often, but it only hits enemies on the ground. So, what I ended up doing was switching between Witchfire and Firestorm. Firestorm's a pain when paired with more AoE as it has way too much reach, making it hard to not burn yourself. Now, we do have kinship, so this doesn't hurt much, but it can still be a nuisance. So if I was ever in trouble for any boss, I switched it off. But Firestorm has way too many pros, and as a status procer, it means burning is on 100% of the fight. So, especially for flying-based enemies, go ahead and use this one. Also equipping the Harmonizer Mutator so it deals 20% more damage, and it could solo the game for you, basically. Yeah, everyone's running it, but it's too efficient, so we gotta use it too. For your amulet and rings, we want stuff that increases elemental damage. The energized neck coil will increase status effect damage by 25%. Applying a status effect creates a small AoE explosion. This is going to make all status effects damage bosses at an incredible rate, and the more you apply, the faster bosses will go down. Then you can get some more damage out of the AoE explosion. We're going to apply statuses over and over to get this as often as possible. Hence why we aren't using the Timekeeper's Jewel, because we want to reproc these. Really amazing at clearing ads because you can constantly stun them all. A Hane Crystal makes you deal 5% more damage for each status effect on the target, which will go up to 20% once we have Corrosion, Fire, Bleed, and Shock. This item does require beating Hardcore Veteran mode, so throw on the Alumni Ring if you can't get it. The Singed Ring increases all damage dealt to burning enemies by 10%. Since we do have easy access to infinite fire from the Tornado or Witchfire, you deal more from mods, guns, and statuses. The Stone of Malevolence is really hard to go without when running elements, as it allows you to have infinite mod regen, thus proccing corrosion whenever we need to and keeping the burning active. Apply a little bit of elemental damage and your mods will be there when you need them. Lastly, we want Burden of Destroyer. 15% more damage to all damage is one of the best buffs for status effects, as well as not really hurting your guns much since both have excellent range. This setup gives you plenty of mod regen to apply all your statuses over and over, offering excellent damage over time, and overall some pretty great gameplay. As for the concoction, you can feel free to use whatever you want here. I use the Xenoplasm for 10% reduced cooldown, granting both our skills back faster for a consistent heal and increase the damage from better fire rate. For traits, you want to stay alive through self-damage, and be able to avoid enemy damage as well. Kinship will stop you from dying to the Fire Tornado or Witchfire burning if you go with that mod instead. Potency will bring your concoction duration up to 120 minutes, so you don't need to use as many of them. Triage improves healing, so your somewhat lacking Relic gets you back up to full every time. Vigor, which is standard. Endurance, so you can dodge and run around. Spirit for excellent mod regen, and Expertise, so you get your skills back well enough. Amplitude will improve AoE size. I selected this so that the explosion from our amulet can affect more enemies each time it procs. I'm pretty sure this effect is affected by it, but be aware the Firestorm mod gets a huge increase in range from this as well. Fitness is another trait I never run without for light armor builds, as it makes dodging attacks much easier. Feel free to switch this one out if you don't need it, but it can come in clutch often. As for how to use this build, it's pretty darn simple. Use both weapon mods to apply statuses, shoot the LMG to apply bleed, and throw the axe every so often to get shock applied. Do this repeatedly each time the status runs out to get an explosion that can take care of any extra enemies in the boss arena. Never reload your LMG due to the mod reloading it for you, and heal often as it provides you with a bit of defense and healing through attacks. The overtime damage is fantastic and should make quick work of any boss in the game. The AoE from the energized neck coil can be weird, as it doesn't always happen. However, I found it to work enough to matter, and overall is a fun amulet to mess with. I think the armor makes you look like a regal prince from the ancient times of Yeisha. And yeah, it's really not that complicated to be running status builds. They can help you focus on dodging attacks, as the damage comes without much effort at all. Also, the extra fire rate from Frenzy Dust is great throughout the entire game. Give her a try, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed. If you did enjoy this build, a like would be awesome. Overtime damage is extremely powerful, and having a neat theme build makes the gameplay feel more interesting. Jump into the game with crazy good ad clear and enough damage to beat any boss. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.